where he's just excels at finding the nuance and finding a way to deliver information in a creative and new way that will make everyone digest it even better than the last time he taught it.
I think if you're really interested in being a coach, you're always evolving.
And that's why he's so inspiring in that way, is like he sort of leads the pack.
Let's get it down to the posture, let's get it down to the pressure, and then let's see what happens. You know, let the students fill in the blanks from there, and that's all Coach Cane.
I think what we're going to discover is that connection is jiu-jitsu. Coach Matt talks about, uses the words jiu-jitsu scientists, and that's kind of I love that idea, and I think if we're good coaches, then we have that going on in class, and then the lab feels like a science lab, and we're making experiments all the time, and I try to use that language because I think it's important language. Hey, let's put this in the lab and let's see what happens, and to be sincere about in the class, releasing material to students and being open to the possibilities. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I gave you this posture and we're going to work this pressure. Let's see. And then you release it to the students, and that way you create a group of students who is curious and who are taking charge of their own journey, and that's really what we strive for. I'm the art of jiu-jitsu guy, the guy who's really interested in understanding how and why it works, and that's my role. I've always considered myself to be a white belt coach, and what I mean by that is the students I like best are white belts, the students I coach best are white belts, and I could spend the rest of my days only coaching white belts and be completely happy. I like coaching white belts for a couple of reasons. One, they're so enthusiastic and sincere about learning jiu-jitsu, and oftentimes they don't have the baggage of a lot of the ego stuff that happens later on. And two, it's a really wonderful, beautiful challenge. And so, where I started to make some headway in the understanding how to coach was tackling that dilemma of how do you make white belts good at jiu-jitsu? And what I found is that when I really focused on what the white belt needs for jiu-jitsu, it actually translated pretty well to everybody else.
As a student, looking at the curriculum and how much you have to learn, okay, that is extremely intimidating. I mean, especially when you look at all the different positions, you have stand-up.
Standing positions from clinch.
Half guard bottom.
Knee ride.
Close guard.
Open guard.
Sound like they should be similar, but they're just completely different games.
X guard.
Upright guard.
De La Hiva guard.
Butterfly guard.
Z guard.
A bunch of other different kinds of guard that I don't know.
We got mount.
Bottom mount.
Again, completely different kind of game. Slash guard.
Cross side top.
It's a Russian thing.
North-south.
Quarter position.
Flank.
Mount top. Mount bottom.
Half guard top, half guard bottom.
Deep half.
There's more than that.
Just kind of wrap your head around all the different movements, body movements, different positions. Try and figure out what kind of pressures you got to be using at different points in time. And then submissions.
Triangle choke.
Arm triangle choke.
You got Americana, Kimura,
Arm bars.
Key lock.
wrist lock,
collar choke, rear naked choke,
anaconda,
Bow and arrow.
head and arm choke,
Darth,
guillotine choke,
toe hold,
ankle lock,
foot lock,
heel hook,
Omoplata.
knee bar.
heel hook, inside heel hook. Yeah, there's a million of them.
Grappling can be so complicated. And I think even back when he was a purple belt, Cane had that ability to just distill it down, get the game down to what is most important.
You know, one of the pieces of advice we often give beginner students is relax, relax. We just tell them to relax, but we don't tell them what it is that you need to relax.
Probably the most common heard advice that I hear on the mat.
And for students, they can't relax because they're not sure when they're in trouble and when they're not. And so in the first part of the journey, that's really what's starting to happen. You begin to understand the positions of jiu-jitsu, and you understand when you're safe and when you're in trouble, which allows you to relax. And then once your body can relax, then you can really begin to start learning the game. And for a lot of people, that's probably late white belt, early blue belt. when they begin to relax enough that they can start learning the game.
I can shout out, Coach Cane came up with 3 points of contact. You know, this is a very basic open guard methodology. Not only do I use it actively when I'm training and I'm in competitive matches, I still teach it. You know, this is stuff I got straight from Coach Cane. The 3 Ps model. Posture, pressure, possibilities. It is, I think it's absolutely ridiculously effective when it comes to teaching really complex techniques and positions. Hey, let's get it down to the posture, let's get it down to the pressure, and then let's see what happens. You know, he has a lot of systems now that really make it easy to learn.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
The 3 Ps.
Yeah.
Can you give me the background of when you developed that theory and that model of doing jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I think I was probably somewhere around purple belt, and I actually started coaching at the gym at blue belt. And one of the things that we did at the time that was actually revolutionary at the time was that we really stuck to jiu-jitsu fundamentals, and we were sort of all about high percentage moves. Like we teach these moves because these are the ones that give you the most bang for the buck. You know, we don't do anything real fancy, and that was really cool. But what I found was that even with that in class, when I would teach stuff, you know, an escape or a submission or something, that my frustration was, you know, if I had 20 people in class, there's probably about 3 people who could take that thing and immediately put it in their game. And for a while, I just sort of thought, well, that's just how jiu-jitsu works, you know. I'm going to teach this thing, and then the next time I teach it, 3 more people will get it, and then the next time 3 more people will get it, and then eventually, you know, after somebody sees it 10 times, they'll be able to pack it into their game. And I thought that level of inefficiency was just built into how we teach, and that there wasn't a way around it. And
Built into jiu-jitsu itself.
and then the way to coach jiu-jitsu. And then so at one point, you know, I've always tried to see if I could just break things down into their component parts and teach it more simply. And at some point, I had the aha moment that, you know, when I'm looking at jiu-jitsu moves and techniques, that inherent in all of these things, there's a structure or a posture that makes it all work. And then I thought, instead of teaching the move, what if you just taught the posture part? And more importantly, if you taught the posture part and then you were able to drill just the posture part. And that was the thing that sort of made it start to work for me. Like, because you could see in almost anything that you teach, about every 2 steps there's an important posture, and it's important to be able to hold and maintain that posture at those points, because in any kind of an escape or working through a submission or something else, you don't always move from start to finish in a smooth, even manner where there's no stops or hiccups, right? You get partway through an escape, and then you get thwarted, and then you got to figure out what to do. And so I decided to start teaching for a while, just working on drilling the posture part. So, all right, we're going to do this escape today, but we're going to start with the posture, and I just want you to be able to hold and maintain this good posture. And so that was kind of the start. And then at that point, I started looking at, well, if you have posture, really what's happening from the posture in anything is you're applying some pressures from the posture. And so you know, we'll start by holding posture, and then we'll start by drilling, holding that posture. And then once people can hold that posture, then we can start applying pressure. And that's kind of how the whole thing came together. And it was an attempt for me to break jiu-jitsu down into pieces where everybody could take something home. And so, you know, regardless of where your game is, you might not get that escape or that submission or whatever it is that we learned that day, but you might get that posture part and be able to hold the posture. And that's going to be a building block, not only to that position, but to a whole bunch of other stuff. Because, I mean, you know as well as I do that there are some posture fundamentals that cut through all different paths or avenues in jiu-jitsu. And so posture, pressure, possibilities, it was just my attempt to make sure that when people came to class, everybody got something they could go home with. That causes most people to not do the triangle choke or to give up on it is you get stacked once or twice, because what happens is people end up getting a guard pass off of it, and And it makes you kind of gun shy about doing it. So, and then, yeah, go ahead and stack this way, like that. And then all of a sudden he's got a guard pass there. And so that's the biggest problem, I guess, with triangle choke. So let's work on fixing that a little bit. And so I'm looking for a situation that's going to tell me I got a problem. And that situation is this angle here between my body and my thigh. You can see that's about a 90-degree angle. As soon as he breaks that 90-degree angle there, I'm already in trouble. And so I'm going to work on showing you how to keep that from happening. One is going to be with your posture. So I'm going to flatten out my back, and I'm going to bring my shoulders back. Two is I'm going to build a sled like that with my shoulders flat. See how I built the sled? And then now when he tries to yeah, go ahead and try it now. Yeah, I can't do it. Yeah, it's just, and that's what I mean by a sled, because he just drives you like a sled. And so you shoulder walk like that, and you build this structure, and then you bring your shoulders flat on the mat like that. And when you do that, you should be able to keep him from breaking this line, like that. Yeah, so my arms are straight on frames, and that's important. So I get here, straight arm frame, bring my shoulders back and flat, and I'm going to do like that with my shoulders as he goes. Yeah, like that, and he's not going to get it. You know, and thinking about what's my biggest mistake as a coach, and honestly, it's probably something I've discovered just in the last couple of years or so, and it's not trusting my students enough to own their part of the journey. And so, well, as a coach, because generally I'm the highest ranking person in the class and I'm the coach, students will, they tend to take what I say as gospel, and if I show them something in jiu-jitsu, then it's automatically right. Now, I've always said since blue belt, one of the things I've always tell students is always put your bullshit meter in your back pocket when you come to my class, because anywhere from 5 to 95% of what I'm going to teach you is going to be bullshit, and you have to ferret that out. And I think that's probably true, but you know, it was a nice thing to say, but only recently have I been able to put it into practice and coaching. And the way to put it into practice and coaching is to allow room for our students to take the material that you gave and then find their own way with it. You know, an example of that would be in the posture, pressure, possibilities model. A lot of times I will stop at pressure, and I will purposefully let students explore possibilities on their own, because at that time, if I show a possibility like, well, we did this position, and here's how you apply hip pressure, and then here's the route that comes off of that. Right. And so this will lead to a great guard pass. And then students are like, okay, I guess that's the right one. But if instead I stop at that pressure, and then I tell students, go out and try that pressure and then see what happens there. And I look around, I'll see a bunch of different routes, and oftentimes things I haven't even thought of. And sometimes that's enough, and in a class I can just stop it there and not go anymore. And sometimes I find that if I would go further, I would be unlearning students and I would make it worse. And so as a coach, and you know, that's part of the evolution of coaching, is to know when I have to stop because teaching more is going to make things worse. Or if I give them a chance to try some routes and I think they need a little bit more, then after that point, maybe then I can go in and show some routes. And so I've been experimenting lately with allowing students more in the process, and I think it works way better. All right, let's build that, and then we'll fix if we need.
So he would
Triangle catch position.
do an entire class on sweeps.
He didn't show a technique.
He would teach just the concept of getting your hips underneath of your opponent's hips,
And then just send everyone out and allow them to explore it.
and then for the rest of the class, we would play with that concept.
And then he'd bring everybody back in and have each group individually demonstrate a technique that they've made up based off of the fundamental information that he provided them.
With a class of, let's say you have a class of 30 students, and each of them come up with 2 techniques for themselves. 60 to 120 different sweep variations in the course of an hour.
And you would get white belts that would come back with legitimate techniques that no one taught them, but they just figured it out because he gave them the cornerstones to build that technique.
I can't tell you how many times I've had this wonderful aha moment in class where a student will ask this question, and as soon as they, simultaneous to the question leaving their mouth, this light bulb of understanding pops up in my head, and it's like, I got it, I understand that jiu-jitsu thing now, just because of a question a student asked. And that, it's like that's a crazy addictive drug, and I like having it, and when I get it, it's just really fantastic. So
that's the beauty of it, I think. That's where his coaching power comes in, where it's just like you can't. I think you can teach that, but I feel like that comes naturally to Cane. Like that way of thinking, he's developed over a long period of time, and it's just the way his brain works. And that's why he's so inspiring in that way, is like he sort of leads the pack in that area, excuse me, in that area of coaching, where he's just excels at finding the nuance and finding a way to deliver information in a creative and new way that will make everyone digest it even better than the last time he taught it.
As a coach now, and I watch him do classes like that, all I can do is try to take notes and man, how did that happen? How did he do that? And I've been in those classes. And for the student, it's not so much as picking up a technique, but it's like the why. Why does it work? And that's what Cane gives. Cane delivers the why, the answer to why. Why does this work?
I started coaching as blue belt probably around 2001 or so, if I'm not mistaken. A long time, and I've been coaching continuously since. So there's never been a time when I haven't. So I don't know how unique it is, but I have the experience of making my way through the color belts in jiu-jitsu while being a coach at the same time. My early blue belt game, I was in my early to mid 30s at blue belt, and that game was fairly athletic and aggressive, and so a lot of fast-paced movement, technically not very precise.
Let's talk about your evolution as a coach. What could someone expect when they came into one of your classes at blue belt?
Well, I'm fairly glad there's no tape of my blue belt coaching days at SBG. My first experiences coaching, honestly, what coaching looked like for me was we're going to show up in the gym, and I'm in this level of anxiety, like, what do I know that's jiu-jitsu that I can teach? And if I'm lucky, I can pull something out and teach it. And oftentimes in those days, my coaching consisted of going to Coach Matt's class, and then watching how he coached and the material he taught, and then my class was right after his. And so sometimes what I would do is I would pick up where he left off and then keep going, or I would reteach some of what he did in more detail. And so I was just borrowing, the way he talked, the way he approached material, and the way Coach Matt, the way he did drills. And that's why I first learned the I method, which was crazy revolutionary. And so for me, it was mimicking my coach, which is probably the way a lot of coaches start. I think somewhere around late purple belt, I really felt like I started coming into my own as a coach. And I felt like, just like in jiu-jitsu, when you hit brown belt level, you start to find your own game. And, the way you roll doesn't look exactly like the way your coach rolls. And I started to find that at late purple belt, where the way I was coaching and teaching didn't necessarily look exactly like Coach Matt's anymore, because I started to find my own voice or my own way to start to understand and break down jiu-jitsu. When I was a purple belt, the I method was it was what I used for a class structure, and it was really solid and it was ingenious. And you know, if someone doesn't know how to coach jiu-jitsu, you can grab that tool, which is the I method, and it will automatically make you a pretty good coach as long as you have some understanding of how jiu-jitsu works. And so, you know, coaching a class was simply going through the I method. Back then, we didn't have a curriculum per se, and so we would just kind of show up and try to stick to basic fundamentals of jiu-jitsu and remember what you did last week and the week before, and then hope you're kind of covering all the material. It was you know, really fairly loose, and so you know, in hindsight, not very good, but still probably better than what you saw at most other places that you went to.
Okay, break. Everybody looks good on that. So now that we have that baseline, we're going to work a couple of really important postures today. And these are the things that will really allow you to get a good triangle choke. You have to have these postures.
The I method itself was such a great tool that I think it put us a step above. And so, you know, my coaching at purple belt was kind of haphazard, sticking to what I thought was fundamentals, and then using the I method to sort of tie it all together.
Trying to posture up, and you're afraid to open up your legs and do anything because you're afraid they're going to get out, but you can't finish. Anybody ever get caught in that spot? It's like the most common thing to happen to you. So we're going to fix that with posture.
Does anybody have any questions or cool comments or anything about?
Two things I learned. Blocking with the knee, that was people blowing out and getting stacked, and that was pushing on the knee.
Yeah.
I mean, two simple details that are,
It's pretty nice, huh?
were the big reasons I haven't been getting them against upper belts now.
Yeah, that's it. I think those are two super key important points. Absolutely.
Totally blew my mind.
Anybody else have anything? All right, we're going to work next on the second important posture, and it's when you screw up this posture. And so I didn't control the head, and now he postures up there, like that. So he postures up tall. We're going to work to this posture here because this is the gateway back to our first posture. So we're going to go here, break this down, come back out to here, and now we're in good shape. He's going to posture back up again. There's the cycle. It works really well. So here's how we're going to break it down slow. I'm going to put on kind of a loose triangle, and he's going to posture up. Right. It's going to put tremendous pressure on your lock. And if you got short legs, it's almost going to want to bust wide open. So in the interim, to take the pressure off, I'm going to change my lock. And I'm going to take this leg and then make it go straight down the spine. And then I'm going to lock at the ankle right there. Like that. See it? That lets me hold on for a minute until I can get his sleeves. And then once I get his sleeves, I'm going to open and I'm going to wrap. And I'm going to wrap. The key is to wrap as low as possible. So I'm not going to wrap up high. I'm going to drive my legs down. My hips go high. And I'm going to wrap super low like that. And then squeeze. Because I'm trying to trap that arm so he can't get it out. See that? It's kind of tight. Like that. And so I want to get to this. Not up here, but down low. All right? So the whole thing again. He's going to posture up. I'm going to change my wrap to this because it takes the pressure off. Get the sleeves open, go super low, and you can see my body's making this kind of a shape, and then wrap like that, and then we'll move on from there. All right, let's see if we can get that part. If you can, you put this one over the top like that. You feel how that feels pretty good? Yeah, and then get two sleeves, and then just wrap super low. Yeah, even lower with your hip high and your knees low, like that. Yep. Yes. Yeah, like that. Your hips should be high on that low wrap. Your hips should be off the mat when you get to that. And as low as you possibly can. Nice, Paul. If that halfway posture is bothering you, just skip it because you don't really need it.
When you think you've wrapped low enough, try to wrap lower. Okay, let's look again. Got the triangle, he postures up. If this posture is causing you trouble, just don't even do it. I don't really care. Just release the pressure on your knees is really the important part. Grab sleeves and then wrap low. The way to wrap low is to throw your heels low and your hips high. Like that. So this is not low enough. This is. My toes are touching the mat and my hip is off the mat like that. Because that's going to allow me to use my hips to drive him forward. So I'm going to drop my hips to the mat and then pull my feet towards me, and he's going to come. Grab the head, put the foot on the hip. Shimmy back, place your leg. All right, he postures up. Grab the sleeves, drive your heels to the mat and your hip in the air. And then you're going to switch that to take him forward. I'm going to put my heels in the air and my hips on the mat. Grab the head, foot on the hip, shimmy back, get in the position, throw in a crappy triangle, he postures up. Like that. Okay, a little bit more. Once you pull him down, the order is foot on the hip first, because you're going to need that one. Trust me on that. Once you pull the head down, get the foot on the hip as quick as you can. All right, good, break. That looked good. You guys look good at that. Anybody have any big issues or aha moments or anything you want to share? Questions, problems? Cool shit.
I really thought Taylor was going to go right past my knee when he had me bent at more than 90 or close to 90. But it was let go, grab the head, bring it down, and close it off. That gave me all the space I needed.
Oh, can you show us how that looked?
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
So you have me broken down here?
Yeah. You just went right back to the posture and then reset. Nice. That's a good find. Yeah.
I don't know how good it is, but I was spawning out some kind of butterfly hooking inside of his leg instead of posting on it.
Yeah.
Like sweeping it out a bit and just giving some weird, funky.
Show us what that looks like, because a lot of people do that, and you can really break their posture down.
Here. Trying to position. Here we go. Immediately switching there. Swing that.
Yeah.
Back to there. As I get to this.
Yep.
Display there.
Yeah, sometimes you can even with your legs triangled, if you can get far enough back, you can get that butterfly hook in if you back up. And sometimes that's a way to kill stackers, because once your butterfly hook goes in, they can't stack you anymore because it keeps the hip out.
And I got that weird angle.
Yeah. So that's a really nice hip attack.
So I have two things. So what if they're like posturing up, and if you have the thing that you're and you have the head down and stuff, but like you can't get your legs into the triangle position?
Show us what that would look like.
I can't.
Put your foot on her hip, and then push yourself towards me a little bit. Yeah, back up. Yeah, and that's going to make your legs longer. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. So sometimes if your hips are too far underneath them, it makes your legs short. And then when you scoot out like that, your legs get longer. So good question. Yeah. Sir.
I felt like immediately making sure they couldn't posture up, so pulling the head down was like really cool.
Yeah, we don't emphasize that enough in the triangle choke, keeping their head down, because when they posture up is when they start making all the trouble. And so if you keep their head broken down, you got a chance. As soon as they posture up, then you got to do all that crazy stuff we just did, where you got to wrap low and break them down, which is not ideal, but you're right. That's something that we don't emphasize enough.
Kind of cool little tip too. It's probably somewhat common sense, but I felt like when you have the shin parallel to the shoulder girdle, the harder you pull down on your shin, when you go to lock it up, it's just the easier it will be to finish because
Yeah.
you're already pulling down super hard. When you lock it down, it's going to be even more strength, and it's just, I found the harder I pull, it's just I finish like that.
Yeah, it's like as soon as it goes over the top, it's
Yeah,
locking in, right? If you got that really hard pull on the back of the neck, it just sets everything up.
Yeah, you don't have to fight it so much.
You're right, it aligns your posture. Okay, let's look at a little bit of grip breaking stuff from that last posture. From experience, having done this hundreds of times, when they sit up, a lot of times they're going to grab cloth here. Yeah, like that, and use that to prevent them from getting pulled over. So we're going to have to break that grip. And so the most efficient grip that I've found is to grab the sleeve like this and pucker it up, and then bring your hand underneath it like that and grab your own wrist. And then simultaneously, as I pull this over my head, I'm going to bring my knees up over my head as well like that. And that's going to do it. And I'm just going to shove that to the side and go. And so I got to break that frame, otherwise he won't come forward. And so pucker, grip, pop it off, bring it to the side. Go back in that same spot like that. Yep, all right, let's try. When I went to the Rickson Gracie seminar recently, some things that he talked about with connection had me rethinking the posture, pressure, possibilities model that I had been working under and working with since purple belt. And Coach John Merlich and I have been having a ton of conversations about that. How does connection fit in with the 3P model? And we're working it out. I don't think we'll have to throw out the 3P model, but I think we're going to have to augment it and do some different things with it to integrate this idea of connection. And this has probably happened to you a lot, because I know it's happened to me a lot. You get them caught one in, one out. Your legs are slightly out of position, and they're trying to posture up, and you're afraid to open up your legs and do anything because you're afraid they're going to get out, but you can't finish. Anybody ever get caught in that spot? It's like the most common thing to happen to you. So we're going to fix that with posture, all right? And so the first posture I'm going to show you, I call it the triangle catch position, and it looks like this. I need to capture his head so he can't posture up. I'm going to take this foot off, put it on his hip, and then bring my knee in, like that. Now I'm going to switch my hands from his head to my shin, one hand on each side, and I'm going to squeeze my knees together like this. And now when he tries to posture up, he can't posture up. See how this actually builds that sled we were building on Tuesday? Like that. And so, hold the head, unhook, grab your shin, squeeze your knees together, flatten out your back. All right, let's build that, and then we'll fix if we need. We're looking at connection. Is connection related to posture? Does connection precede posture? Does connection create posture? How does connection relate to creating pressure? Do you need connection to create pressure? And how does it relate to possibilities? And so is connection something that happens in all three places? Is it more important in the posture and the pressure or the possibilities? Does it transcend all three? Does it come before all three? How does it work? And how would you diagram it out so you can take this, this idea of posture, pressure, possibilities and add this other piece in so that it makes your jiu-jitsu better? And so we're really trying to understand that. And to me, that's going to be a really nice evolution, and we're super excited about it. This is SBG, and you will be okay.